Who was Ishmael? Learn about the story of Abraham's eldest son, a troubled relationship in the Bible. To understand the story of Ishmael, we must begin with the story of his parents, Abraham and his servant Hagar. Abraham was sitting in the shade of his tent, gazing at the endless horizon, when he heard the voice of God in his heart once again. It was a promise he already knew well, but which seemed more distant with each passing day. Leave your country and your relatives, and go to a land that I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation. Genesis 12, 1-2. Abraham, amidst uncertainty and challenges, faced the difficult reality of his wife Sarah being barren. Each day that passed seemed to increase the distance between them and the divine promise of a large number of descendants. In the silence of the night, Abraham and Sarah shared their anguish and doubts. Sarah's soft voice reflected the deep sadness of not being able to conceive a child, while Abraham sought to remain firm in his faith, reminding both of them that the Lord is faithful. In a deep dialogue with God, Abraham expressed his affliction when questioning about the heir to his house, revealing his anguish at the apparent impossibility of having children. It was in this moment of intense connection with the divine that a new promise was made, renewing the patriarch's hope and strengthening his faith in the fulfillment of the divine plan. Abraham, in a moment of deep reflection, shared with Sarah his concern about the lack of descendants. Sarah, in turn, feeling the weight of time passing without children, suggested to Abraham that he take Hagar, her servant, as a concubine in order to generate descendants who could fulfill the divine promise. Abraham was initially reluctant to this unusual proposal, but eventually gave in to Sarah's pressure and agreed to follow this path. The decision to involve Hagar in this plan brought with it a series of unexpected and challenging consequences for the entire family. Abraham and Sarah saw in Hagar a solution to their lack of descendants. Hagar, as Sarah's servant, welcomed the proposal with a mixture of fear and hope. The conception of Ishmael brought joy, but also a shadow of tension in Abraham's tent. The relationship between Sarah and Hagar became increasingly complex as Ishmael grew under the watchful eyes of his parents. The birth of Ishmael represented not only the partial fulfillment of the divine promise, but also the beginning of a latent conflict between the women of the house. The conflicting emotions between gratitude and resentment permeated the family atmosphere, foreshadowing even greater challenges on the horizon. After the birth of Ishmael, Abraham found himself faced with an emotional dilemma. While he loved his firstborn son, he knew that Ishmael was not the heir to the divine promise made by God. Ishmael's presence in the family represented a constant reminder of the human attempt to solve a divine problem. Abraham, in his conversations with Sarah and in his silent reflections, sought to understand Ishmael's role in his destiny. The duality between affection for his eldest son and the certainty of the future promise caused Abraham to face a deep internal conflict. He recognized the importance of Ishmael in his life, but he also understood that the divine plan went beyond human choices. Thus, Abraham found himself faced with the challenge of reconciling earthly expectations with trust in heavenly providence. Ishmael, Abraham's eldest son, grew up under the shadow of the divine promise made to his father. As he watched Abraham and Sarah deal with the arrival of Isaac, Ishmael found himself in a delicate position within the family. The duality of feelings accompanied him daily, for he was loved by his father, but he was not the heir of the promise. Isaac's presence in the tent brought out the differences between the half-brothers, creating an atmosphere of hidden competition and mutual incomprehension. Ishmael sought to find his place in the family, while Abraham tried to balance his affection for both sons. The complex dynamics between the family members revealed the nuances of human relationships in the face of divine promises. Ishmael, upon witnessing the arrival of Isaac, his legitimate half-brother, found himself faced with a whirlwind of emotions. While Abraham and Sarah celebrated the birth of the heir to God's promise, Ishmael felt increasingly distant from his father's heart. The shadow of Isaac's preference hung over the tent, creating an atmosphere of discomfort and displacement for the firstborn. Isaac's presence not only reinforced the division between the two sons, but also highlighted the divergent expectations placed on them. Ishmael, although loved by Abraham, now found himself in a secondary position, questioning his role in the family and in God's plan. The complex dynamics between the brothers reflected not only family tensions, but also the ramifications of human choices in the face of God's promises. Sarah, perceiving Ishmael's presence as a threat to Isaac's inheritance, demanded that Abraham make a drastic decision. The tension that had built up over the years reached its peak during a celebration for Isaac's weaning. Sarah saw Ishmael playing with his half-brother, and overcome by a mixture of maternal protectiveness and jealousy, ordered Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman and her son, for the son of this slave woman will never be an heir with my son, Isaac." Genesis 21:10. Sarah's words echoed through the tent, full of determination and resentment, revealing the depth of the conflicting emotions that permeated the relationship between the family members. Faced with this delicate scenario, Abraham found himself at an emotional crossroads, having to balance love for his children and fidelity to the divine promise. After being sent into the desert, Hagar and Ishmael faced countless hardships. Food and water shortages became a constant in their lives, testing their resilience and faith. As a devoted mother, Hagar struggled to protect and care for Ishmael in the harsh desert environment. The nights were freezing and the days scorching, but Hagar's determination to ensure her son's survival was unwavering. In a moment of deep distress, when water ran out and despair seemed to dominate their hearts, Hagar placed Ishmael under a bush to protect him from the scorching sun. The loneliness of the desert echoed with Hagar's lamentations as she wept over the uncertainty of the future. It was in this arid and desolate setting that divine intervention was present. The angel of the Lord appeared to Hagar, bringing words of comfort and promises of a great destiny for Ishmael. Guided by the angel, Hagar found a spring of water in the middle of the desert, a symbol of divine provision in the midst of scarcity. The encounter with the angel renewed Hagar's strength and hope, and she understood that God was with them even in the darkest moments. Thus, in the unforgiving heart of the desert, Ishmael's story was marked not only by adversity, but also by the manifestation of divine mercy. Growing up in the desert, Ishmael developed not only survival skills, but also a deep connection to the arid land that sheltered him. Each sunrise and sunset in the desert was a testament to his journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Ishmael became an expert archer, mastering the art of hunting and defending himself in an unforgiving environment. His skill with the bow and arrow was not only a matter of survival, but also a symbol of his identity as a free and untamed man of the desert. The solitude of the desert was his constant companion, shaping his character and forging his resolve. With each kill he captured, Ishmael reaffirmed his connection to the wilderness that surrounded him. As he learned to navigate the vast arid expanses, he also connected with his ancestral roots and the legacy of his father Abraham. In this way, Ishmael grew not only in years, but in wisdom and courage, preparing himself to lead his own lineage and fulfill the great destiny that was in store for him. Ishmael, as a leader in the desert, established a prosperous and united community. His skill as a hunter and military strategist was instrumental in ensuring the safety and sustenance of his people. Ishmael's influence extended beyond the borders of the desert, earning him the respect and admiration of neighboring tribes. His wisdom and generosity made him a respected leader, able to mediate conflicts and promote peace among the peoples of the region. Ishmael's descendants flourished under his leadership, building a prosperous society based on values of justice and solidarity. Ishmael's legacy as the patriarch of a great nation endures to this day, reminding us of the transformative power of faith and determination in the face of adversity. Subscribe to the channel for more fascinating biblical content. Thank you for following this incredible biblical journey about Ishmael.